This podcast is supported by 23andMe.ca, a personalized genetic service available in Canada. 23andMe reports provide genetic information based on a small saliva sample. Canadians can learn about their genetic information that published studies have associated with conditions and traits like celiac disease, cystic fibrosis, and even response to certain medications. More information is available at 23andme.ca.
Welcome to the BS Show. Are you ready to shoot the... The BS Show would like to thank their sponsors. Jack Cameron, accredited mortgage professional. Jack can show you the way home. Graco Impact Sports, providing top quality combat sport equipment tested and used by all levels of athletes. Dominate your world. RepoSales.ca, specializing in vehicle and equipment recovery, liquidation, and sales. Hemmings House Pictures, the global movement media makers, helping tell your brand story to the world and accelerate the momentum of your movement. Farmbox Films, capturing stories the way you want to remember them.
Greetings, fellow humans. Welcome to the BS Show, the one, the only podcast dedicated to combat sports and mixed martial arts in Atlantic Canada. I am your host, Boyd Sharpe, and I am joined fresh off of his unanimous decision win at ECC 22, the incomparable Mr. Rick Trash Canyon Doyle. Hell of a performance, Rick. Congratulations, brother. Welcome back to the show.
Well, thanks, my short-peckered friend. I really appreciate that. It means a lot, man, coming from you. It really does. Happy 420.
Yeah, it was a fantastic night. Extreme Cage Combat 22 this past Saturday night. 3 belts on the line. The one 35-pound belt won by one Mr. Mini Kent Michael Spenline. The 145 strap won by the formerly uncrowned, now crowned 145-pound champ Gavin Tucker. And to few people's surprise, the 175 strap going home with the belt collector, defending champion, Mr. Matt McGrath. So, yeah, hell of a night.
Dude, it was unbelievable. I know I was backstage for this event. It was truly an honor to be on that roster that night. It was something special. And to be in that building with the excitement, the energy that was there, the caliber of fighters, it truly was an honor just to be a part of that. And Boyd, you did a fantastic job on that. You were doing the play-by-play commentary, and from what I understand, it got a tremendous amount of views.
We'll check with Mr. Martel when he joins us in a little bit to find out how much information he's got on the stream. It was great, actually. I heard so many people say the same thing as you, Rick, that there was just something in the air on Saturday night. It was a different kind of event. It didn't feel like a regional MMA event. It felt bigger. I don't know if it's because it's the first big local event we've had since the UFC was here. I know there were a lot of faces there that I'm not used to seeing at the local shows. I got some feedback today from some guys who said, man, I enjoyed that so much more than the UFC. When is the next one? I can't wait. I think next time I'm going to take my kid. Got a bunch of messages like that on Facebook today. It really was a special card, and I'm super envious of you that you actually got to be part of that backstage. And to sort of up the notch just a little bit more, for the first time ever, we got to share what the ECC provides with the world, because our local telecommunications company, Bell Alliant, live streamed the event around the world. And Skippy, I do believe you guys were tuned in.
Yes, we were.
I should warn Skippy that I was going to talk to him.
Oh, that's all right. Yes, we were. Actually, we had about 30 people here in the studio watching the fights. It was a great night. I thought the fights were great. From everybody that was here and everybody at Team Madhouse, congratulations, Rick. You did what you needed to do. You went out there, you controlled the fight, and you won it with your game plan. So honored, truly an honor, brother, to see you get out there and perform.
Yep, that means so much to me, and I appreciate that. It was a wonderful experience for me personally, and not so much the win, although that is just a fantastic thing to experience. I kind of felt that I got so used to losing lately, I didn't know how to win anymore. So that felt great. But the experience of going in there and with my opponent, Peter Campbell, I take my hat off to this guy. I mean, he's a tough man. And for two guys our age to step onto that stage in a younger man's sport and go 3 rounds and prove that we deserve to be there, that meant so much. You know, if you follow what I'm saying, like that is the greatest honor that I can reach, and I thank him so much for that opportunity. And he's a tough guy, and we just went out and we just did absolute battle, and at the end there was so much respect. That is going to be the biggest memory that I take from this experience.
My favorite moment was getting to introduce your fight by saying, stepping into the cage now with a combined age of 90 years, Peter Campbell and Rick Doyle.
Yeah, I heard that, you asshole. I actually got a couple of texts that was being said. So, hey, man, what goes around comes around. Remember that one.
Yeah, I'm sure you'll make me pay for it in the gym at some point.
And before I disappear back into the backside of the show, I would like to also thank Rick so much for representing MMA Madhouse on your walk to the cage and then the post-fight pictures. All my profile pictures on almost every social media is you now, so thank you.
As it should be. I appreciate that. Listen, man, that's the least I could do, because if it wasn't for you and your guys and everybody involved with your organization, we wouldn't be able to profile some of these guys and get the exposure that we are. Now, maybe it helps and maybe it doesn't. I don't know. But I got to believe at some point that we're helping these guys develop some skills, or the right person sees them, or the right person hears them, and off they go. So that's the least I can do for you, man.
I had a number of people since our Gavin Tucker interview actually come up to me and say how much they enjoyed that interview with D-Logue and with Gavin, and they talked about how articulate they were and how they presented themselves so well and how it was so good to learn a little bit about them in a forum like this. So I think the guys who are listening to the show a little bit are sort of catching on to that, because I remember, I think it's Mark Burnett, the guy who started Survivor, saying one time that if you want to make a sport grow, you got to take the helmets off them, right? You need people to get inside the lives of these fighters and see that they're regular people, or that they're exceptional people, but they're not just beasts who are getting in the cage and mean mugging and fighting. There's a lot more to it than that. And yeah, Skippy, huge thanks to you guys for giving us a venue to do that. So, Rick, Friday, Saturday was not without some controversy, as any MMA event will be. The weigh-ins. Were you involved with any of that, or were you trying to just make weight and keep your head out of everything?
Well, yeah, I was just trying to relax. I was there, to do my job. But I know there was a tremendous amount of controversy at the weigh-ins. There was also some controversy at the fights as well. And, this is going to be something that I'm going to go off on here before long, because I'm poking a big finger at the Nova Scotia Fight Commission, and I really want to get some of this shit off my chest. Probably tonight is not the right time for that.
No,
but
let's not do it tonight, because if nothing else, we got a little bit more research to do. But I know where you're going with this, and I will give the sort of the facts of the situation, and we can talk about it later. But I know in the contracts, a weight is listed for fighters to fight at. If it's a non-title fight, standard practice around the world is an extra pound is given. And extra time is given, an extra hour, I think, to make weight if you can. The Nova Scotia Boxing Commission is a little different. If it says you're fighting for a 135-pound title, rather than being bang on that weight, which is 135.0, they will allow a pound for shorts. And they don't want fighters weighing in with their shorts off. They just want to do it in shorts, and they'll allow a pound for the shorts. So this is very confusing for fighters who come from away, and they've seen the contract, but they've not seen the Nova Scotia Boxing Commission regulations. So They weigh in at 135 or 145 or 155, whatever the case may be. Next thing, their opponent, who maybe knows the rules, logs in at 155.5, and they're like, what the hell? The guy just missed weight. The title fight's off. And the commission says, no, actually, our regulation says it's 1 pound for shorts, and the guy is wearing shorts. So very confusing. Happened to Lyndon Whitlock a couple of years ago. There was much kerfuffle about it, lots of discussion on Top MMA News. Same thing happened on Friday. It was a bit of a schmoz. There was lots of confusion and shouting. So we need to work with the promoter and we need to work with the commission to make sure that this is clearer to fighters when they show up. Either the commission needs to change or something needs to go into the contract that ECC is putting out so that fighters know exactly what the situation is and there's no more confusion in the future.
Well, absolutely, and I do want to discuss this at some point, Boyd. This boils my blood a bit, but, folks, this is 2015. MMA is here to stay. We are producing some of the top talent out of Atlantic Canada, maybe all across the country here, okay? We do not need to deal with a commission that was based around a sport of boxing. Okay, we need a commission that is going to work with the promoters, work with the fighters, because this is the purpose that they're here for, to send our talent out into the world. Don't be fighting us, work with us. So we need somebody on these goddamn organizations that understands the sport of MMA. But anyway, I won't get off on that tonight, but it's a real bone of contention with me.
Yeah, take a deep breath. Take a deep breath. We'll save that one for another night. And I know Mr. Ken Wood, former referee, judge, commission member, who joined us a number of weeks ago in a fantastic episode of this show. He was, if you want to think about it, the Burt Watson of the ECC this week. He was working for the ECC, but he was hand in hand with the commission, making sure fighters were ready, making sure hands were wrapped on time, making sure everybody knew where they were supposed to be and when. And, man, I think this was the smoothest running ECC that I have seen since I've been involved in local mixed martial arts. I definitely want to ask Peter Martell about that when he joins us in a few minutes. But we will definitely have Ken back on to help us work through some of that.
Because it was a bit of a buffer zone between the promoter, the commission, the fighters, the back room, and that guy knows his stuff. He is in touch with what's going on in the MMA community. He knows it. He understands it. He respects it. Great. That was a great addition to this card.
Yeah, I think Ken Wood had a serious impact on how things flowed the night at the event for absolute sure. And he's a great guy to work with. Oh, battery just died on my laptop. Now I have to do the rest of the show blind. Great. So, guys, don't send me any Facebook messages. I won't get them. The last message I did see pop up there is we have Mr. Peter Martell in the queue. Skippy, unmute his mic. We need to hear from this man right now. Peter, we got you?
Hey, buddy. Yeah, can you hear me?
So, tell us a little about ECC 22. What are your impressions? How did it go?
Well, first of all, I just got my voice back today. Literally, yesterday I couldn't make a sound, and that was some screaming. Great show, great fights. At Rick, yeah. Actually, it wasn't screaming at Rick this time. It was screaming to Rick. Normally I'm screaming at Rick.
Actually, I want to remove myself from this conversation because I do try to avoid you at all times, Peter. You know that. But I know that there's a lot of questions that want to be asked to the promoter of the show. And so I'm going to take a step back, let Boyd...
As Rick pointed out earlier, he didn't even get to see the show, so he doesn't feel it's really appropriate for him to be part of this conversation. So Skippy and I will take it from here for the chat with Peter.
So anyways, thanks for coming on the show, Coach. I'll catch up with you later.
All right, buddy.
So, Peter, Rick and I discussed it just before you came on air here, but Saturday night felt special. Is that just us, or did you feel that way, and are you getting that from some fans as well?
You know, it was a great night. There were great fights. And we
Rick, do you have your phone on speaker or something? If so, you're going to have to turn that off.
Is that better?
Try again, Peter.
There we go. I was saying it was a great night. There were great fights. A sellout crowd, and everything just clicked. It was there was nothing I could point to and say, hey, I wish we'd done this better. And that's a rarity when putting these shows on. There's always something that goes wrong. Fights fall through. Something happens. But last night, 3 titles, fantastic crowd, fantastic fights. I can't even begin to think about complaining about anything.
For the first time coming out of an ECC event, you're not saying, why the hell do I do this?
No, that was the 2 days before leading up to it. I was thinking, why the hell do I do this when we had issues with fighters and medicals and our hotel flooded and, flights were missed and, things like that. But the actual event itself,
but then it all came together.
The most relaxed I've ever been.
So, well, that's really, really good to hear because I heard a lot of people say that they thoroughly enjoyed the night. The regulars were saying it was a special night, and the first time people who'd never been to a local MMA event were saying it was a fantastic time. They enjoyed it even more than the UFC that they attended back in October. They couldn't wait to get to the next one. They were asking me when it was going to be. So certainly a super night. Tell us a little bit about your 3 champions that you have now.
Well, what more could you ask for? We've got Matt McGrath, who defended his title. Matt is just a warrior. Matt's on a win streak. I think that his only losses the guys who are either in the UFC or in Pride. He's just a phenomenal athlete, a phenomenal champion, and a gentleman. He came in and he did a piece of work. He did what he needed to do, had a game plan, and just executed it. I got to give props to Richard Arsenault, who's as tough as a hockey puck. Gavin says that, and I got to agree with that, the hockey puck analogy. He was on the bottom for 5 rounds with Matt, who's got great wrestling, great top pressure, pounding on him. And he was, between the 4th and 5th round, he just pops up like he's, going out for a Sunday stroll. Like, he's not even winded. That man's conditioning and toughness is incredible. Anybody else except Matt would have been getting frustrated and thinking, what the hell do I got to do to beat this guy? Can't say enough about Matt. True gentleman, great guy.
And your protege, 145-pound champion Gavin Tucker, how proud were you to see this guy who basically walked into your gym only very few years ago, now with your strap around his belt, around his waist?
You know what? Gavin is something special. I think it was about 4.5 years ago he came in, started training with me, and he is a sponge. He's a student of the game. He's, obsessive compulsive about training, and I think that's what you need to be a champion. He's gifted athletically, and he's intelligent. He studies, he learns, he improves. He's the only guy I know who can have a dislocated shoulder, have surgery, and improve in other areas of his game while rehabbing. People sitting on the couch, lamenting their injury and watching TV, and he's in the gym working his good arm, working his jab and his lead hook. It's just, we can't say enough about that. So proud of him. He's a truly deserving champion. And, anybody out there who thinks, Gavin's not that tough, when you run into him in the cage.
Yeah, and hopefully we'll have the replay of the stream. I don't know if Rick is on the phone here. He might be breathing heavy into the phone. I'm getting some kind of weird, scary feedback. One thing about Gavin's fight is it wasn't without trouble. He got caught with a couple of really big shots. I think a couple of head kicks and a couple of hooks. And he just shook them off, and you could tell. Number one, he's got a chin, and number two, he just was not going to be denied that night.
No, I mean, that's the good thing about Gavin is he's that good, but he still has room to improve. We recognize a certain area that maybe he can work on, but props. Bo hits like a truck. He was throwing with everything he had. Like he was. I don't know if he was planning on going into round 3, 4, or 5. He was throwing everything he had. He was looking to take Gavin's head off, and he's quite successful in his fight doing that to some people. He's got great pressure, great wrestler, and let's not forget the end result. He didn't get out of the second round.
Absolutely, and probably people are saying that Johnny Campbell and Christian Savoy had fight of the night, and I definitely can't argue with that. But my favorite fight of the night to watch was Mini Michael, Kent Spenline, and Rick Pfeiffer. How do you feel having Mini now representing your organization as well?
Oh, I couldn't be happier. The guy is just, a technical wizard when it comes to grappling, and people don't give him credit for stand-up. I watched him in his last fight, and his stand-up was, it was fantastic. He's not just a grappler. He's an MMA fighter, and he's damn good. Everybody keeps saying, oh, no, you put this tough guy in front of him, he's going to lose. We keep putting tough guys in front of him, and he keeps going through them. That match.
Yeah, he did 3 rounds with Lyndon Whitlock, who quite realistically is a weight class or 2 above him, really. And he looked good in that. He dropped Lyndon Whitlock. He's like you said about Gavin. He's got some room to improve, but he's definitely one of those guys who has the attitude and who has the athletic ability and the potential to be something truly great.
Yeah, and his exciting finishes. I love, he's finishing with triangles, inverted triangles. Like that match with Pfeiffer was a technical masterpiece. I was so happy with the attacks and the escapes, and I'm thinking, oh, he's done. Oh, he gets out. Oh, now he's done. It was just unbelievable. I was watching that, and I was thinking, this is a thing of beauty. A match like that, if you're not a student of jiu-jitsu, if you're not a true MMA fan, you may be thinking, what the hell's going on here? But I think the fans now are educated, and when they see a fight like that, I really think they can appreciate that is just high-level skill. That's a chess game, and someone's going to get checkmated. And Spenline got the checkmate.
And there's one thing to tap guys out, but 2 out of 3 fights now, Michael Spenline has actually choked his opponent unconscious before the referee could even get in to stop the action. So, that guy definitely works on some top-notch skill.
Yeah, absolutely. He's putting guys to sleep, and, that's a rarity, really. Guys will tap, but putting guys to sleep, that's still highlight reel stuff.
I got a question for you. Rick wanted to jump in with a question, but before he does, I want to ask you about this. For the first time ever, we were able to broadcast Extreme Cage Combat around the world. Do you know what the reaction has been to that and what the viewership was like?
The numbers were pretty impressive. I got the report today, and there were in the thousands, and I'm pretty sure that it's the best live stream that they've ever done by far as numbers go. And I had a lot of emails and messages. People were going, "Oh my God, the stream's not on! The stream's not on!" And then the next message is, "Okay, it's on." And I didn't get any complaints. People liked the stream, said it was high quality. I think something like a little small PEI, over 3,000 people were watching it.
Wow.
That's
fantastic.
Those are big numbers. Great for our sponsors. And
great for the sponsors for sure, and a great way to grow the sport as well.
Absolutely. My sponsors were coming to me saying, Peter, we're on board for the next one. And that's that gives you that sense of ease. Like, okay, I can go out and find some talent. I can, I can put some things into this next show. There's people behind me. And that's what we want to do. We want to grow the sport and keep improving. But I've got to say, this card here, I'm racking my brain. Like, how do I top it?
Yeah. I was thinking today, actually, I don't know if you can. Every card can't be UFC 100. You can't do that every single time around. You need to have your UFC fight nights, and then you need to have your New Year's Eve shows.
And that's why you need true fans.
I know you're going to be looking for the best all the time, but you can't. Sometimes you have to take a step sideways before you take another step forward.
Exactly, and you need some setup fights. You need to build guys, build fighters. We've spent some time building, Spenline. We spent some time building Tucker. We spent some time building Matt. These guys have been fighting for a while, and that's why we get these great championship fights. But, we're building other guys, Johnny Campbell, Christian Savoy. We're building these guys now. And that's the
absolutely.
Name,
Okay, well, before I let Rick jump in, because we got to move on to another guest pretty soon, but I do want to ask you this. Tell me a little bit about how you felt about Rick's fight and how that all turned out, because Rick is somebody who came to MMA in an extremely unusual way through a reality TV show, Cubicle to the Cage. He's somebody who struggled. He struggled with the sport. He wasn't somebody who took to it. And you have worked with him so much over the past couple of years. How did it feel for you standing there in the corner, watching him finally implementing what you guys had worked so hard together to improve on?
You know, I got to tell you, I've cornered something like, it's got to be over 200 fights now. And to be honest, that has got to be one of the top 5, to finally get that Rick that listens and does what he's supposed to do and executes his game plan and does it, damn near perfectly. Because, like you say, he came to the sport in a very unusual way. The Cubicle to the Cage program, where guys, who train for a year and take a pro fight, that's a tall order. You have guys who are successful in the sport who've taken, judo for 10 years and boxed for 3 years, and then they go to train MMA for a couple of years, and then they take a fight. These guys came from nothing, tried to train everything, and have a fight. And they're fighting guys who've been training for years, I think Steve Goodfellow's guy had been training for 8 years when he was one of the Cubes who fought. Your guy, the guy you fought, Boyd, had been training for years. That was the reality of it. So the hope for them to win was, it was tough. But Rick stuck with it, and he trains. And, he's busted up. So he does what he can do.
He's old.
He's old as shit. And I shouldn't say that. I'm older than him. But anyway, he's, and the sport doesn't really come natural to him. And I think it's because of his injuries and that. So the fact that we were able to work and put this game plan together, we worked, we said this guy's a Muay Thai guy, Muay Thai instructor. You got to get this guy down. So we worked singles. We worked singles against the cage. We worked ground and pound, and we worked, posturing in the guard, escaping the armbar, escaping the triangle, escaping the Kimura, escaping the guillotine, which are the bread and butter of attacks from the guard. And that's exactly
and he had to do at least 3 of those.
Absolutely. And he didn't deviate from the game plan. He kept his cool. He looked seasoned in there. He didn't rush things. It was a great fight for him. It was a great performance.
Absolutely.
And, something that it made me very, very proud of him to see him. I mean, he was listening. We were having a conversation back and forth in the cage. I'm talking to him. He's talking back to me. Not a lot of guys do that. A lot of guys are in there and the fight's just a blur. But that's what you hope for, is your fighter who's
really, really good in the time that I've spent with Rick to see him grow and to see him go in and have that performance. It was truly awesome. It was fantastic, and any fans of the Cubicle to the Cage show will definitely appreciate that. Okay, we're going to move on pretty quickly to our next guest, but before I let you out of here, I do want to ask you, what's next? I mean, you've had 24 hours to rest now. What do we expect next from BCC? When can we see another show?
Well, I'm thinking perhaps, maybe first, second week of May, about 10 weeks. Give some guys some time to have a week off and then hit the training camp again. I'd like to see Speenline defend his title. We're building this guy pretty quick. He's gone from, just a couple of years ago not having any fights to being a champion. So, fast track him a few more big wins, and who knows, maybe he won't be fighting for the ECC anymore.
Yeah, and that's what this is all about. Growing champions, growing guys who are going to go on to the bigger shows, and growing the sport in general. Well, thanks a lot, Pete. It truly was an awesome night. I'm honored that I was asked to call the fights. It was a fantastic learning experience for me. My partner that evening, Craig Ferguson, was a phenomenally knowledgeable guy. He was great on the mic, and he carried me along, and I learned as I went, and it was really a great experience to experience the sport in that fashion as well. So I think the Bell Alliance guys are going to have the replay of the stream up and available for people to view in the next probably week, 10 days. And I got a funny feeling when that happens, it was such a good card that however many thousands of people tuned in for the live stream, we'll probably get just as many watch the replay.
I did get a chance to watch the live stream from the dressing room, and excuse me, I got to say that yourself and Craig just did a phenomenal job. It sounded just, I mean, I couldn't have asked for anything more. And, you know, people were saying that. They were like, you know, this is a fantastic production, great fights and great commentary, knowledgeable, well-spoken, intelligent. I mean, and I have to give props to Madhouse and the guys. We didn't really do anything to promote this live stream, but they did. And that just goes to show you the reach and the impact, because thousands and thousands of people watch this live stream, and it wasn't because of anything I did. So, you know, hats off to them, and a lot of.
And I know Skippy and those guys, Skippy and those guys had an inside connection, and did manage to get their hands on the link, and I know that they shared it a little bit, and that explains the fact that we were hitting, I think, 3 continents and 12 countries. So big thanks to MMA Madhouse as well.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Thanks, Peter. Can't wait to get you back on and talk about what's next for ECC.
Thank you very much for having me.
Sorry about that, Rick. I meant to bring you in, but we had to move on to Mike. We'll have to get Pete back on soon.
Well,
are you still there, Rick, or did we lose you?
No, I'm here. That was a great interview. The only problem was I would have liked to have heard Skip ask him a few questions, but that's what happens when you become unbridled. You just go on and on.
I think Peter went on and on. He was giving us good stuff, and Skip, as you know, is welcome to jump in absolutely anytime he wants.
That was a great interview, and I heard some of the things that the coach had to say about me. It truly was an honor to be part of that, and it's been quite a journey for me personally. To get involved in this world, the MMA world, it's fantastic. The amount of support I received, and to have a coach that works with you. You know, it's easy to take somebody and start them from, a rough piece of clay, and show them everything that's right. And when you come across a guy like me that's been in literally hundreds of fights in my life, I don't even know how many. So I have a certain way I move or a certain way I think that's kept me safe all these years. And that doesn't necessarily work in MMA. So to have somebody take you and work with you and say, okay, this is the way you think, this is the way you move, this is the move that you need. That's huge. To absolutely put your trust in somebody else to win a fight, it's an amazing experience, and it's an amazing connection, and it's an honor to have Coach Martel instruct me, and I'll leave it at that.
Good stuff, brother. You talked about learning a bit about MMA. There's very few people in Atlantic Canada that know more about the sport of MMA and promoting it and growing it than our next guest, Mr. Mike Williams. Mike, are you in the queue?
Yes, I am.
This has been a long time coming. We started this show quite literally, I believe, the same month that MMA became no longer legal in New Brunswick and Elite1 stopped promoting. So we have been waiting a very long time to get you on. So welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. It's great to be here. Yeah. No, it's been a long wait. Like we've been just trying to be patient, and every time we make a move, they're thinking it's going to happen. It's you hit another wall, and I'm glad it's back. We're all pretty excited.
Yeah, as well am I. Now let's go back. Tell us how you got into this business of promoting MMA. When did you first start? Was Elite1 your first foray into MMA? When was that? How did the first card work? Just walk us through what that was like back in the day.
Back in the day, what it is I got into this with my brother Steven, and we both partnered up, and he said let's try this, and and it was all a new experience. We just tried it. There was no amateur back then, so fighters were coming in straight right into pro. So it was hard at first because we didn't really have a big fighter pool. So you're grabbing guys that just want to jump in the cage, but that was probably about 7 years ago now. So and we come a long way now. The fighters, they come, went into the training. They definitely took it serious, and the fighters are coming out now, and there's very few grad trainers now, and street fighters and stuff like that. There's you don't see them in the cage no more. Like, you know, but at first it was a dangerous market because you know, we didn't know what we were getting into.
How many shows did Elite One produce before you shut down a year and a half ago?
The last show was my 20th show. Yeah, my 20th show.
Wow.
And it was.
And you guys seem to have a permanent or a semi-permanent home at the casino in Moncton. How did that come about?
Yes,
Is that something that you're going to continue with, or are you going to try to spread the love around a little bit in New Brunswick?
Well, no, we've been with the casino since they opened up. Since they started the casino there, we've been pretty well. You know, we got a great working relationship with them, and you know, it's such fine-tuned machine. Like, you know, now we go and we do our shows at the casino. It's you know, it's second nature. Like, everybody knows what they got to do, and it's you know, goes so smooth. But now that the province has opened up, we're definitely going to step out of the box. And but we're still staying at the casino. Like, we still have 3 shows booked at the casino, 3 to 4, depending. You know, this year here we won't get 4 in, but we might get 3 in there this year. So
fantastic. And I hear that you're also going to do a show in St. John, New Brunswick.
Yeah, we're going to do a show in St. John. Yeah, we're going to try the St. John market and start showcasing what we can do up there and showcase some of the St. John fighters, and it should be interesting. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes. Now, for our audience, we have an audience that's much broader than Atlantic Canada, so we have a lot of listeners that won't be familiar with what was going on in New Brunswick. Can you kind of walk us through what happened there? Because you were actually promoting MMA under, was it a city commission, the Moncton Commission? Because they didn't have sort of what in the States would be a state commission. It was a city commission or something, wasn't it?
Yeah, a city commission. Yeah, and we were the only one in New Brunswick. Like, the Moncton Boxing Wrestling Commission was the only commission in New Brunswick, so it made Moncton pretty well a hotspot. Everybody wanted to do a show in Moncton because you couldn't do one anywhere else in New Brunswick. Now,
everybody wants to promote MMA until they find out how hard it is.
Oh, that's it. Oh, yeah, it's a game, man. You know, and like I say, when you have to be organized, and Peter will agree. You know, like, you have to be organized. Yeah, there's a lot to it, and there's a lot of stress to it. There's you know, and don't get in it thinking you're going to get rich, because it's, you know, it's not going to happen. you know, but we do it for the passion of the sport, and, you know, at the end of the day, you make a few bucks, and, you know, it's fun, you know, and in the pride, and, you know, but there's you know, it's like when it was shut down because Canada passed that law defining that MMA was a sport, and when they did that, they because the Moncton or the Moncton Consolidation Act didn't have the word MMA in it, they said now it's illegal to do a show in New Brunswick, and the Moncton Commission doesn't have the ability to sanction your events. I said, well, I've been running for 5 years here. Come on now, guys. You know, you can't just tell a business you can't run for 5 years, or you can't run again, you know, until they get it all done. And they told me about 6 months, but it took a year and a half before they finally went through all the ratings and everything, got everything worked out. But now that it's a provincial commission, it's going to open up a lot more doors, and it's going to, you know, it's definitely going to broaden the fight pool. You know, so there's going to be more. So, Mike,
were you able to play a role? Yeah. So were you able to play a role in how that commission came about? Were you sort of consulted at all as sort of an expert in the province, and do you know much about that commission yet?
I know a couple of commission members. Like, I know who they are, and like they didn't really you know, talk to me too much about who they were taking on board and all this. Everything was hush hush because they didn't want to take a chance of anything leaking out before they announced it or before they were sworn in. But like I say, we were all pretty well kept in the dark. Like, we talked to him every week. Like, we'd call Frederick every week to try to get an update. And every once in a while you get little tidbits, but, you know, it was just not enough to, you know, and we thought it'd be done by January. We thought we were going to be having our first show in January. And, you know, it just never, like, we had our event booked. We had our, you know, we were ready to go. We were starting to put a card together, and then it was getting too close. Like, cause, in order to do a show in January, you gotta definitely take advantage of the Christmas market, you know. So without that Christmas market, you're you know, taking too much of a risk, and, you know, with the snow and everything too. So but you know, when we seen January wasn't going to happen, we just put it on the back burner and said okay, and just tried to wait it out. Yeah, I'm just it just sucks that it took a year and a half to get it done. Yeah. Yeah,
absolutely. And when it did go down, I very quickly was under the impression that it was going to be like a 12 to 18 months. So to see it back at 18 months, I think it was on the inside of my prediction. I believe the Nova Scotia Commission was consulted fairly heavily, and Mickey McDonald in particular, on the creation of the the commission in New Brunswick, and we've talked at length numerous times on this show about how stringent the Nova Scotia Commission is, and things just always seem to come up at the last minute. And I mean, they have fighter safety and they have regulation at the utmost of their work, which is fantastic. I mean, it's great to know that the fighters are being taken care of, and it's great to know that due diligence is always being done. But holy hell, it makes it difficult to get the job done sometimes as a promoter. I'm not going to ask you to piss anybody off, but how have you found it working with the commission thus far on the upcoming card? And do you expect that you're going to kind of be held to a fairly high level of rigor going forward?
I think no, they have some standards. Then that's the thing. Like the safety, and that's one of their big things, the safety and medicals, and and it's like I say, any other promoter will tell you, like trying to get medicals out of the fighters, you're constant getting the medicals, getting them all done, and they got to be in by a certain time, and this and that. And it's just there's some things that I don't agree with the new bylaws and stuff. Like I don't like the idea that the promoter handles the purse. And with the old commission, we used to hand the purse into the commission 14 days before, so they had control over the purse. So
that's the way it's done in Nova Scotia. I'm surprised that it's done the other way. Yeah, this way here, the promoter handles the purse. At the end of the night, the promoter pays the fighters, and that's scary, because if somebody's losing money the night before the show, who's to say they don't just pack up and take off? And it's just going to happen once before they say, okay, well, we got a problem here, So that's a big headache on you.
Oh yeah, and it would definitely hurt the market. That's the thing, if they take off and sell a bunch of tickets and take off, and then you're in the same position like Moncton was. Like Moncton, it happened to Moncton a while back. I guess they're where a promoter came in, they sold a bunch of tickets and took off with all the ticket money and everything, and it what it does now, we get a lot of walk-ups. We don't have a lot of, like, we have our pre-sales, but not as much as you should, and if that happens in St. John or anywhere else, it's gonna people are going to rely on the walk-ups, because they're just,
absolutely.
I don't want to spend my money now.
Which makes it difficult from a promoter's point of view, because you really need to know how much money is coming in. Am I going to break even? Am I going to have a little bit of money to invest in the next show type thing?
Hey,
exactly.
Mike. Hey, Mike.
Yeah.
Hey, Skip. I want to jump in real quick. Listening to your conversation, obviously being from the state side and dealing with promotions down here, I have two questions. One, you're talking about pre-ticket sales. With that in mind, how hard was it for you after a year and a half to still have that roster of guys who are ticket sellers, or guys that are going to match up well and promote well? Is my first question. And the second part is, with the new commission rules, like down here in the States, a couple of states have now made it mandatory that amateurs sign a contract to perform as well, and with penalties if they don't show up on weight or they don't show up without a medical reason to miss the fight. Your opinion on that, and your opinion on the roster, and it obviously thinning some for sure.
Right now, this was actually one of the hardest cards to put together, because what it is, they just announced the commission 3 weeks ago or a month ago. Yeah, they finally announced it, and without the commission being announced, the fighters, they don't know if the card's going to happen or not. So it makes it harder for the fighters to get ready, and we had a real hard time trying to get this card put together. We scrambled. We scrambled to put it together, and a lot of fighters weren't ready, and they're all ready for the next. So I expected that it all, within the next 3, 4, or 5 months, it'll all pan out, and we'll start getting everybody back into their weight. But a lot of fighters took a break. A lot of it was challenging. It was challenging. Yeah. But now, as far as the amateur contracts, we run our amateur contracts too. But there's no penalties, and I think that's something that definitely has to be worked into the contracts. But we do have the amateur contracts. They sign the release, and it's probably about I think it's a 6-page contract that they sign for amateur fighters. Yeah.
Yeah, I've talked to Peter Martell about this at length, and that's the difficulty with getting fighters to get their medicals done, as you pointed out a minute ago. It quite literally is the most difficult part of promoting MMA. And number two, getting them to show up on weight. And I've said this before, if I hadn't fought, I would keep my mouth shut and I wouldn't bother opening it. But I have fought. I had to get medicals. and I was in my 40s, which makes it even more difficult to get medicals. And Lord knows it's difficult to cut weight when you're in your 40s. And I fucking did it, and I showed up, and everything was fine. So it really, really frustrates me when you see these fighters who agree to fight months out, and months out, and don't have their medicals done in the week before the fight. Oh, when I'll get it done next Friday, and it's like, well, you're fighting on Saturday, for God's sake. You got to get this stuff done. So that's the one thing that I would really, really like to work with local fighters on, to get them to put a much, much, much higher priority on that. I know it's expensive. I know it's a pain in the ass. But if you want to fight, it's an investment that you have to make in your career.
Oh, exactly. And the thing about the medicals now too is with New Brunswick's new bylaws, there their medicals have to be valid 90 days before the fight. So if they did their medicals back in November, they're no good to me. They have to do them over again. So it's only good for 90 days, which is, and I think that's going to change eventually. But it's same thing. It makes it, almost every fight you're getting guys getting new medicals, and
Mike, could I get you to do me a favor? Can I get you to email me a copy of the regulations from New Brunswick, or instruct me on how I can get a copy of those? Because I'd like to dig into those a little deeper, so we can revisit that on future shows when we're working with you guys.
Oh,
now,
sure.
I noticed that you've had to cancel at least one, possibly two fights off of this card, and you're looking for new opponents. How challenging is that in say, you're 3 weeks out from a fight as well? I know Peter struggles with the exact same thing with the ECC here in Halifax. I want to bring it up because I know Skippy and the folks on MMA Madhouse have a huge reach when it comes to getting access to fighters, and you are very close to the American border. So I just want to put that out there in case there are some guys in the Northeast who would be interested in driving up and fighting.
Oh, for sure, yeah. No, we had to cancel one of our fights, due to an injury. We had it replaced, and then the day the guy had agreed to the fight there, he ended up taking a headbutt and splitting his head. So we just scrapped that fight. But we're still looking for a fighter, a 145 for Jericho McPhee. He's 4-0 amateur.
Great fighter.
We're looking for 150. He's a great fighter, yeah, and it's hard to match him up, and then we're looking for one for Brendan Clark, and he's 155. And his record's 1-3, and the same thing as an amateur fight. So these are the two amateur fights I'm trying to replace right now, and that'll bring me up to 9 fights. Like I say, we canceled one there, and that was enough. Like the JP Shortell and Mazerol fight there, we had to cancel that. So. Mm-hmm. But
Rick, I'm going to invite my co-host Rick in because he's usually quite the interrupting loudmouth, and I just want to make sure that he hasn't passed out or something in his chair.
There you go.
Thanks, Boyd. Mike, thank you so much for coming on the show tonight. It's a privilege to have you on. I thank you very much for taking the time.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me. Yeah.
I know we don't have a lot of time tonight, and I'd be very interested to hear your story, how you actually became a promoter in the MMA world. But I kind of want to jump in on a couple of things right off the bat. You have a huge following for MMA in New Brunswick, probably a larger following than what we have in Nova Scotia right now on the local circuit. And I'm not sure if that's because of your promotion or just the people there or whatever, but what you're doing is great. You're a pioneer up there. Please keep it going because you're on to something great. And I listened to all this bullshit about commissions, and it infuriates me. And I know we're going to talk about this at some other point, but these goddamn commissions are supposed to be there to promote the fighters, to promote the sport. And it must be so frustrating when you're dealing with people that do not even understand the sport. I think a lot of them are like insurance brokers. I don't even know why they're there. Okay, but keep going and keep pushing through this because you're onto something great up there, and we really appreciate it. Where do you want to take this organization? Like, what's your vision?
Eventually, like I say, I'm looking at Moncton, I'm looking at St. John and Fredericton, and eventually we're probably going to get an Elite1 Amateur League running and probably do the small cities just to keep trying to build up the fighter pool. The amateurs are our future pros, so it's going to be a challenge, but we're looking at probably this year here, we're looking probably trying to pull off 5 shows. And then next year we're going to just go full force, So, but I plan on, like I say, doing regular shows in St. John, regular shows in Fredericton, and pretty well probably 3 to 4 at the Moncton Casino New Brunswick. So, yeah.
We had Coach Martel on here, and he takes this very serious that he feels he's part of the process as a promoter to help these guys go up the ladder, to send them where they want to go. And how does that feel as a promoter, that you're part of that cog? How do you approach that whole thing when you see someone and you say, I want to put this guy on the stage because he deserves to be there?
No, for sure. I agree. Like, the pride, we're trying to get these fighters up there, trying to build the records, and and yet you have the odd one that's a natural, it's just a natural, and you want to see how far they can take it, and it's a pride thing. Like, you're proud of these guys. Like, like Matt DeRoche when he fought there for Tough. Like, wow, Matt DeRoche isn't tough, man. That was cool. I never missed an episode, just to see Matt DeRoche, So, it just shows you, that these guys can get out of it, and can go into the bigger shows. It's just, and they're given the chance.
And I mean, the current extreme cage combat champion at 135 pounds, Michael Spainline, has fought for you as well, right?
Yes, he has. Yeah.
So I mean,
that hat on.
Yeah, yes, and he's done it every time since. That's his moniker for sure. And Rick and I started this program. We started this podcast because both of us came to MMA in a very weird way through a reality television show. And when that was over, as a couple of 40-year-old guys who'd been training for a couple of years, there wasn't much we could bring to mixed martial arts in the cage, despite Mr. Doyle's victory this past Saturday night at ECC 22. But we knew that there were other talents and there were other connections that we had that was going to be able to help grow this sport in Atlantic Canada. When we started, we thought it was going to be covering in New Brunswick and Nova Scotia at the same time. We had to cut our teeth on Nova Scotia only with you guys being out of commission for a while. But it's super exciting to have you back. I have 2 people that I'm sure you're aware of, Judo John Williams and Amy Pitt. From New Brunswick, who have offered to work with the BS show to keep their finger on the pulse of what's happening with MMA in New Brunswick. So I'm looking forward to them working with you and keeping up to tabs on what's happening so we can grow this sport and we can grow the number of people who are attending and we can help improve the options and the sponsorship opportunities that these athletes have in front of them so that we can see them go on to the bigger stage and we can see more of the Chris Kalides and the TJ Grants and the folks that come out of Atlantic Canada that start on these grassroots local shows and go on to bigger and better things.
Oh no, you guys are doing a great job, and that's what we need—the exposure. Like, the more exposure we get for the fighters and for the events and everything, it's going to benefit MMA in general. So it's great to see what you guys are doing, what you're doing. So yeah. No, that's
and
great.
I don't know if you had a chance to check out the ECC live stream this past week. Peter Martel said he was playing his cards close to his chest and he didn't give us a number. I was hoping he would. But he said it was certainly many thousands of people across the country who tuned in, and I will confess I have seen that number. Out of respect for Peter, I won't share it, but it was in fact many thousands of people. So if you're ever interested in doing something like that and you're looking for a color commentator analyst, give me a call.
Oh, for sure. No, I appreciate that. Yeah. No, we got ours running on Fight Network about 3 months after the show. So we got a pretty good base there on the Fight Network, and that's going to continue now that you're back up and running. Fantastic. Oh, it is. Yeah. We've talked to them. I just uploaded my last video there actually last week, Fall Mayhem. So I was waiting until I got reinstated, till MMA got reinstated, I should say, and I wanted to upload that up there and start running it again now. So. Yeah,
and
so
do those get called in color commentary by Robin Black?
Robin Black and what's the other name there?
John Ramdeen?
Testing me now. That's it. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Awesome. Fantastic. Well, I will step aside and defer to Robin Black 7 days a week. So if you're in his hands, you're more than covered. But if you ever need me, let me know. And that being said, Rick and I would absolutely love to pick up a press pass for the next event so we can come up, we can check out your venue, we can check out your promotion, we can check out your athletes, and come back and report.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, you guys are more than welcome. I'll definitely make sure I have a couple of press passes set aside for you guys for sure. Yeah. So
awesome, Mike. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
We shall talk to you very soon. Before I let you out of here, I am going to ask you one more question. Yeah. Our next guest, who's sitting in the queue right now, is Mr. Shawn Wallace, a guy that I had the good fortune of seeing fight a few years ago. Super excited to talk to him, undefeated fighter under your banner. Tell us a little bit about your impressions of him and how you feel having him on the card.
Oh, I've always liked Shawn. Shawn's a respectable kid, and he's definitely, he's got the talent. He's got the talent, and I can see him going places. And we've already been talking to Adam Hazelton about coming down and defending his lightweight belt, and I think Shawn's a prime candidate. Yeah, so it's just a matter of getting him up there and throwing him in there. And no matter who you throw against Shawn, you look at Shawn and you think, well, but then he goes in, he does the job, man. And those are the ones you got to watch.
He more than does the job. I can attest to that. I've had an opportunity to watch him up close and personal. I'm going to give you a minute to give a shout out to any of your supporters and sponsors, partners that help you make this possible in New Brunswick.
No, I like that. I got a few sponsors involved. Like there's DF Imaging, and I got the Casino in New Brunswick. I got Hell High Water Tattoos, and these guys have been with me for years. Pretty well thanks to all the staff that make this happen. Like we have a huge staff. We've built a solid brand, and now I just want to see how far we can build it now that the province is open.
Awesome, Mike.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us. We'll talk soon.
Thank you. You take care. Thanks.
We'll see you on the 21st.
Yeah, right on.
Take care.
Yeah, thanks. Bye-bye.
Rick, our lives just got a whole lot busier because, as you pointed out, MMA is more popular in New Brunswick even than it is in Nova Scotia. And with these guys up and running, we're going to be hopping to keep this covered.
I love the fact that we're going to expand, the type of coverage that we're doing right now to New Brunswick. Absolutely. I'd like to give these guys a platform, get their name out there a little bit, get people talking, and see where this whole thing goes. And it's going to be very interesting to see how Mike transitions from running all amateur shows to pro shows. I have a feeling that
he did pro shows before. Before. It's his brother Steve and Cage Rage that did amateur. Sorry.
Absolutely. I think we're in for some really good fights in Atlantic Canada with some top-notch people. I'm really excited about it. And it's too bad about Robin Black there, Boyd. I don't know. Maybe you two can get together. I wouldn't mind having a crack at that fellow myself, actually.
I do believe Robin is retired and moved on to bigger and better things, sir.
Yeah, probably. If I had another year under my belt, I wouldn't mind taking a crack at that. We'll see.
You never know. He might hear about this. We're running longer than we normally do, and I am not one bit sorry because it's been a great night of conversation with Peter Martel breaking down ECC 22 and with Mike Williams with the return of MMA to New Brunswick. But I want to invite a guy now that really impressed me the first time I saw him fight a number of years ago, Mr. Shawn Wallace. Shawn, sorry for the long wait. How are you doing?
Not too bad. How about you?
I am fantastic. I am going to tell the story of the first time I saw you fight, and it was in, I do believe, Trenton, Nova Scotia. You were fighting Cole Peach as you guys stepped into the ring. I don't believe it was a cage that night. It was a ring. Yep. Cole was certainly the much bigger fighter. He was the more imposing fighter. He seemed supremely confident. I had seen him train before, and I was damn near certain that he was going to win your fight. And you beat the hell out of that guy. And it really impressed me, and I've been following you through social media and through your fights in New Brunswick ever since. Tell me a little bit about that night, because you shared with me on Facebook that you knew that he was a favorite going into that fight, right?
Yeah, I just fought. I made my pro debut a few weeks prior to that, and they were having a lot of problems with people pulling out of the fights due to injuries and stuff like that, and they gave me a call, and I seen him fight his first pro fight, and I was like, okay, well, he is a big guy, but I was up for the challenge, and I didn't know too much about dieting and stuff like that then. So like I was the physically smaller fighter, but yeah, I came to fight and it showed in the performance.
Yeah, absolutely. The number one thing that I took away from that fight was your heart, your determination, and your, I don't know if it would be conditioning or just your will to continue, because it wasn't a fluke. It wasn't a first-round knockout. Did it go into the late of the second, or was it the third round?
That went late into the third round, but it was a weird thing because I seen earlier in the night there was a few quick stoppages, and I mounted him a few minutes into the third round, and I damn near broke my hands on his face. And like I was just like, what can I do to stop this fight? And I just kept trying to go and go and go, and then they finally jumped in and stopped the fight. But yeah, like I didn't want to lose. Like I don't like losing. I'm a very competitive person, and I was giving it everything I had and trying to just put a pace that he could not keep up with. And I think after round one, he realized that, and he wanted to finish me, but he just couldn't do it.
Yeah, and good on him that, I mean, he managed to stay in there for two more rounds if you felt that that's the way he was feeling after the first. But you absolutely did impose your will through that second round and through that third round. And I remember thinking, sitting cage side, because I think I was only a few feet from the ring that night, that I wanted them to stop the fight. I mean, I was sitting there going, I love MMA, I love watching guys fight. I'm not enjoying this, because by the time the ground and pound was over, I'd seen enough. So it was fantastic that you did get the win that way. So back it up and tell us, how did you get into, as I describe it, stepping into a cage and beating up another dude in your underwear? It's not something that the general public generally can connect with. So how did you, number one, step into martial arts and mixed martial arts and end up as an undefeated 4-0 fighter?
Well, when I was younger, I always wanted to be a professional athlete. Like, it was something I always wanted to do, but I didn't know what it was going to be at. It was just very athletic, and everything I do, I'm very competitive. It didn't matter what sport, and I was quite accomplished playing football, and it was fun, but it didn't give me that outlet for just letting out that kind of aggression, and like I always enjoyed the sparring and stuff like that. So I believe I was watching The Ultimate Fighter Season 2, and when I seen that, I was just like, wow, this is what I want to do. I really like this. So I just kind of looked around to find a gym, and then when I finally found a gym, I just started training, and then it was just I fell in love with it, and I just haven't looked back since.
In that Peach fight, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I was just going to say that, and then from then on, it was just, I just was training and just trying to build up my confidence to get in there and fight. Like, there was stuff that people around me were doing, and at first it was just like, well, you know, I don't really enjoy getting punched in the face that much, but when you're in there, it's really not that bad. It was just getting over that, and then once you got in there, it was just take a fight, and I just kept winning. That's just how it went, I guess.
It's funny you should say that, because it's the exact opposite of the way the trend of professional mixed martial arts, even on regional promotions, go now. You see guys stepping in so much better prepared now, where you're kind of more of an old school guy, or you just get in there and you're kind of learning on the job, which is an extremely dangerous thing when you're talking about getting into a cage and fighting another man.
Yes, especially someone that's training, when they put in a specific amount of time to fight you. Like this training camp here for my current fight coming up, this would be the longest training camp I've ever had. Like, all the other ones were very, very short notice. Like, I was never getting the calls like that far out to take a fight. So I never really had someone be able to study me for an extreme amount of time. So I knew they were never going to be too well prepared to really beat me or have all this footage on me and stuff like that. But yeah, so this one here, it's a little bit different than all the ones previous, I believe.
Rick, jump on in, brother.
Yeah, I'm loving this conversation so much. And, you know, we just saw a match at ECC 22 there with two warriors who had done battle years before and had continued in the sport and continued to train and continued to get better. And they came back for a rematch. And when you guys were talking, I was feeling the same vibe there, man. It's so cool. But thanks so much for taking the time to come on tonight. I hear your name kicked around a lot. What are your aspirations? Where do you want this sport to take you, or where are you going to take this sport, brother?
I really just want to keep as many doors open as possible, and if I can keep winning fights and not picking fights, but having the proper fights that will push me to the bigger stages. And if I can keep winning, well, there's no end to this. Like I will go as far as I can, but I'm not putting a cap on it or no ceiling. But if you never know what could happen. You're just one injury away from your career could possibly be ended. But if I could go to the top of the top, that's where I plan on going.
So, to see MMA ramp back up in New Brunswick now, possibly Prince Edward Island right around the corner. Obviously, things are going well in Nova Scotia right now. All these promotions are building their fan base. They seem to be getting stronger. How does this look to you as a professional fighter when you have now two organizations that you can work for? Do you see this as a benefit to yourself as a professional and as an individual?
I believe it's good for all the fighters around, as long as the shows don't end up being like a week apart or something like that, because the talent pool, the depth is not really there in the Maritimes at the moment. Like, people aren't, when someone's injured, they always have a hard time filling those replacements. So when stuff like that happens, when you have two shows too close together, maybe one show gets all the talent and then the other one does, and then maybe that suffers and the fans kind of don't enjoy the show as much or something like that. So as long as something like that doesn't happen, I believe it's very good for all of the Maritimes, for the Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, and possibly PEI, because like the sport's just taken off, and there's so many people that are interested in training and competing, and there's a lot of talent out there. People just need to be like, you can't be having two shows a year and having people be prepared all the time for that, right? But if you have more shows, well, then maybe people are going to be in shape all the time, and you'll be putting on good fights.
Yeah, that's kind of my thoughts, too. I mean, if these organizations start to work with each other, I come from a pro wrestling background where you have various promotions in different areas, and after they may bicker and they may fight a little bit, but at the end of the day, when they start to work together for their own best interest, the fighters themselves or the athletes seem to benefit from this type of thing. There's simply more options and more opportunities for everyone.
Yeah, as long as nobody's backstabbing each other or doing anything like that, if people work together and then they build up the fighters like everybody's saying that they want to do, if that's really what they want to do, they could really build some top-notch fighters from the Maritimes they could send them to the big stage, and then it's going to look good for them because that they started here. This is where their roots are. So things will just be better for all promotions, not just ECC and Elite1. If there's any other ones that are going to pop up or come and do shows around here, like, it's just going to be good for everybody as long as nobody's going to play dirty.
Agreed, brother. Thanks so much for taking the time. I'll throw you back to Boyd there to thank your sponsors, and thanks so much for coming on. We look forward to the opportunity of profiling more fighters and giving them more exposure in your area. Thanks so much.
No problem, man.
I'm glad Rick did that because he hates when I cut him off, and I just was itching to jump in because you're definitely hitting on something that I've said before. And I had this conversation at ECC just this past week on Saturday. Somebody was saying, I wish there was more promotions around putting on shows. And I was like, no, you're crazy. What we need is a strong promotion in New Brunswick. We need a strong promotion in Nova Scotia. we need probably one of those promotions or both of those promotions to do shows in PEI maybe. But my dream, and I'm not going to lie, I actually took a nap this afternoon and I had a little dream about this, that Elite 1 gets up and running, has a really strong showing for a couple of years, and at that time, and at only that time, they legalize MMA in PEI, and we do a show on the island in the summer, champion versus champion, Elite 1, ECC. It would be fucking epic. And it would broadcast and bring in tens of thousands of viewers, I guarantee it. How about we work towards that?
Yeah, that'd be fantastic, because there's so many people over here that are into fights, and like if you go and you see the events, like I'm sure you've seen this weekend in Halifax, you looked, and the amount of tickets between that the guys from our gym at Wolf Run sold, and even from Richard's gym in Summerside, the amount of tickets that they sold, it was more than half the crowd there. So if you think
John,
about it,
you should see the live stream numbers. Peter Martell was on the show earlier. He wouldn't tip his hat and tell us the total viewage across the country, but he said there were 3,000 people from the island of PEI that tuned in to watch this show.
Yeah, I believe it. It's crazy. Like there's a lot of people over here that really enjoy the fights, and I know that if they were to put on a show at, say, the Credit Union place, they have a giant setup for doing fights. Like they could put a lot more people than they do at like say at the Forum in Halifax, or like I know the casino in Moncton does like 2,000. Well, I'm pretty sure they're going to do more than that when they do eventually get their shit together over here.
Well, listen, I got one more question for you. Tell us where you have trained, where you are training now, and who are the people that support you and make it possible for you to do what you're doing.
Oh, well, I started training in New Brunswick, and I used to train with at Sims Knockdown in Moncton, and then that place kind of fell apart towards the end of it. And then I was at kind of a career crossroads. I was trying to finish my apprenticeship, and I was like, well, I don't know. And then I got offered a job in Prince Edward Island, but I wasn't going to come over here unless I had a proper facility to train at. So then I got a hold of the guys at Wolf Run MMA, and I was brought in and welcomed in, and so I'm over here now and training with them. And there's so many great guys over here. Like I know you've had Professor Abel on the show before, and he has such a wealth of knowledge, and he's a great guy and always helping everybody. And Jason Sago and Matt McGrath and Morgan Rhines, all these guys that are over here that are really good, strong team, and they all help me out all the time, and it's a great spot to be. And
listen, you're 100% right. We have had a chance to talk with those guys, and if you made that decision and if that's your home, then I am extremely excited to see you back in the cage on March 21st, because I'm sure the fighter that we're going to see then is just leaps and bounds above the fighter that I saw a couple of years ago, and that fighter impressed me, and I want to see more.
I've been like, I don't want to brag about myself or say anything, but I know that I have improved tremendously from being around so many good people. Like I'm not. There was a point in time where I was training with people and I didn't have anybody to really push me, and now there's a handful of people that put a beating on me any day of the week. So it's not like I can just be lazy. I have to be sharp all the time, and it really just makes me better. And everybody will see this in March, a couple weeks away. Everybody will see.
Awesome, brother. Thanks so much for joining us. We look forward to seeing you on the 21st. If you got any special thanks you want to send out, now is your moment.
Big thank you would go out to my girlfriend Jolene for putting up with everything that goes on with a fight camp and helping me with just everything. Like I'm not home a lot and training all the time, and all my teammates at Wolf Run MMA, and my sponsors coming up. I got Cavendish Farms, my employer. They're sponsoring me for this fight. Mel's Petro Canada in Charlottetown area, and also Boom Incorporated over in the Shediac area in New Brunswick. And I'd like to thank everybody for just helping me support and try to chase this dream of mine.
Awesome, Shawn. Thanks so much. Look forward to seeing you on the 21st.
All right, thank you.
Take care.
You too.
Skippy and Rick, I know it's been a long one, but I personally am not in a huge hurry to get out of here because I think that was a very valuable conversation. The reintroduction of MMA to New Brunswick.
I'm excited about it, Boyd, and, you know, brother, it was weird, man. It was like an 80s movie there the other night at the show when you see everybody coming in their colors, you know what I mean? All the boys in the red and white, you know, the Titans jackets, the Abaya jackets, you know, Wolf Run. I mean, just to see all these guys coming together, dude, it's awesome. It's awesome. I love it.
Well, hey, I'd like. First of all, I thought this show was amazing, from top to bottom. I liked everybody's opinions. I liked the questions. I was really, like, almost mesmerized listening to your interview with Mike and what he had to say, and being able to jump in and ask a couple of questions, to the point that I started a thread on Facebook, a question addressing
that shit's blowing up.
Oh my God! I didn't think it would. I figured a couple people. I mean, in like what 9-10 minutes, we've got like 40 comments already. I mean, it's a really interesting look because this is a brand new, you know, lifestyle for fighters now. There, you know, with this commission, the rules, everything. So for me, I thought Mike's interview was just amazing. I could have listened to more of that.
What did you
we're
ask?
Gonna have to revisit that.
I don't know anything
Rick,
about Facebook. What'd you ask?
Rick, I don't know if you've been following that, but if you haven't, I'll fill you in here. So people have really honed in on what Mike pointed out about guys needing 90-day medicals. So basically, every show you have, every fighter has to re-medical basically, unless they're fighting inside of a 90-day period. In the United States, that would be phenomenally expensive. In Canada, I don't even know if it's possible, because if I walk into a doctor's office and it's not a fee, it's not really a fee for service. It's the government sort of burdening the cost under universal health care. If I walk in and say I need a full medical run up, they're like, well, why? I'm like, well, I want to fight, and they're like, okay, maybe, and they do it, and I mean that costs thousands of dollars if you look at the real cost, not the cost that we pay here in Canada, which is a few bucks.
Oh,
but if you come back month after month, I mean,
you know you're going to work me up on this a little bit. You know that because I know what I went through for my last fight. Now let me slide a little bit.
And your opponent.
My opponent went through hell, and that's why it was such an honor to get in the cage with him. And God damn it, no matter what, I was going to do it because I know what he went through. They sent me, I had to go to a doctor 22 times, and I had to see 5 fucking specialists. To the best of my recollection, it cost the taxpayers of Nova Scotia $22,000 to get me medical for my last fight. I had to fake a heart attack, for Christ's sake, okay, you know, to get the stuff done that they required. So this is what we go back to. If these commissions are actually there to promote this sport, to help this sport, then there's a better goddamn way than what's being done right now. I don't mean to bring a cloud over this conversation tonight, but it burns me. There is a better way. We need to figure out a better way. We need people in these positions that understand this sport and want to work with this sport.
Yeah, 100%. Skippy, we're going to have to dig through this thread. Like I'm scrolling through it here on my computer, and it just goes on and on and on and on and on.
This is
obviously something we're going to have to address because Mike is going to have a massive amount of trouble in New Brunswick if he thinks that he's going to get fighters to re-medical every 90 days under the Canadian healthcare system. I mean, I don't see it happening. He's going to have a huge problem with that.
Well, it's ridiculous. We need to sit down, figure out exactly what needs to be done and how we do it as a sport. And all aspects have to work together.
And we need your opinion. We need, your side as well as Mike's side, as well as Boyd's side, as well as, Peter's side, to come to an even field for everybody to play on. Look, I don't think you're bringing a dark cloud. I think you're just being yourself, and you're addressing it from a different point of view than maybe some fans tonight listening or down the road might be. But I'm on your side. I'm in the same vein as you, and I tagged you in the thread so you could catch up with us later after the show. And you're talking about some of the biggest promoters in the country are in this thread, and some of them disagree with each other, and it's blowing my mind. I mean, to see everybody's opinion, because some people think it should be longer, some people think it should be shorter. So, Boyd, I hope down the road we can, on the BS show, you guys can have a show and just strictly maybe do this and just bring on folks to talk about the commission and licensing and blood work and things like that.
Well, let me give a shout-out right now. I'm going to give a shout-out to Lauren Marsh. I'm going to give a shout-out to Sabby D. I'm going to give a shout-out to Ken Wood, possibly even Earl, if he's listening. I doubt if he does. But we need to get some people on here from the commission and from the medical community who can help us with this, because, we don't have the answers. Because the answer is not, don't do the stringent medical testing. That's not the answer. If anything, we need more, because fighter safety has to be paramount. That's just an assumption. That's what's got to be at the top. But there has to be a better way to do this that's easier for the fighter and that isn't such a financial burden either for the healthcare system. I work in the healthcare system. I don't want to see it cost more money. But what I do want to see is for us to have the proper level of safety for the fighters in a system that is simple for people to understand and for the medical community to execute, that can get fighters who are appropriate to get in the cage and perform.
Exactly. And Boyd, when I went off like that, no disrespect for the people that are there and trying their best. Absolutely not. And I know that at the end of the day, they're looking out for the fighter's welfare. There's no question about that. But any person on the face of this planet can look at this system the way it is right now and say, this doesn't work. This isn't right. This needs to be changed. This needs to be updated. Somebody needs to talk about this. That's all I'm saying, brother.
And I want to say, on behalf of the BS show, do not fake a heart attack in order to get your echocardiogram, as Rick Doyle suggested.
Well, dude, they won't give it to you. Right?
I know they won't. Rick is purple on the best of days, so I'm sure you didn't have much trouble faking that. But with that pink-purple head, I'm sure they threw you on the machine and slapped on some electrodes right away.
I still fucking pass, so.
Awesome, brother. Skippy, Rick, it's been a fantastic week. ECC 22, return of MMA to New Brunswick. But I'm not going to lie, the amount of research and preparation that I did for calling the fights at ECC and getting ready for this show, I'm ready for a break. I'm turning off social media. I'm going away for a few days. So we'll talk to you next Monday. Hopefully we'll get a few of the headliner fights off of the Elite1 card coming up on March 21st at the casino in Moncton, New Brunswick. Rick, we'll have to figure out our travel plans, get up there, meet those fighters, talk to Mike, and see what we can't do about growing the sport in New Brunswick.
Yeah, 4 hours in a car. That's exactly what I wanted to do with you.
We'll have some good tunes. I'll get some Nickelback.
Hey, boy. There you go.
Get some trash Metallica.
Yeah.
Even better. As always, this was a long one. I hope you guys enjoyed it. That's enough BS for one night.
And remember to wear your sunscreen. Check out that song. It's worth your while.
Welcome to the BS Show. Are you ready to shoot the... The BS Show would like to thank their sponsors. Jack Cameron, accredited mortgage professional. Jack can show you the way home. Graco Impact Sports. providing top-quality combat sport equipment tested and used by all levels of athletes. Dominate your world. RepoSales.ca, specializing in vehicle and equipment recovery, liquidation, and sales. Hemmings House Pictures, the global movement media makers, helping tell your brand story to the world and accelerate the momentum of your movement. Farmbox Films, capturing stories the way you want to remember them.